Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next session. It is my honor to introduce our session speaker on the topic of wonder, Bob Glazer. Bob is an entrepreneur, an author, and founder of the incredibly successful and inspiring Friday Forward. It's a weekly newsletter that delivers stories and insights that will inspire you and give your work more value and meaning. It's a treat for all of us at the EWC office, and we look forward to reading it every Friday. We spend so much of our lives working, and it begs the question, how do we do more meaningful work? And how do we find goodness in that corner of our lives? Well, looking at the world with wonder increases our sense of discovery and curiosity. And it's in that space of discovery and curiosity that we not only unlock our full potential, but do the kind of work that helps others do so as well. We are excited to welcome Bob to hear about his path as an entrepreneur and how he has managed to do good work while also doing good in the world. So please enjoy his talk and then join us afterward for Q&A.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bob Glazer. Thank you so much for having me today. So I had a unique experience 2 years ago. My parents decided to sell my childhood home, and my mother was a very prodigious collector of everything throughout my life and kept it organized. We each had a drawer. But they were downsizing, moving to a new place, and so she came over with a box, which was basically my whole childhood, and she said, either you take this or I'm throwing it out. So faced with that, I decided to take that and go through it. And one of the things I found was she had saved every report card from the time that I was, I think, 5 years old through college. And so one night I grabbed a glass of wine, I sit down, I decided to read through these report cards, thought it would be fun. And quickly that turned into a bottle of wine, as you might see now why. So a couple of the comments and themes. First grade, his chief difficulty is attending to the task at hand. I've given him his own desk that's not been successful. He's in a hurry. He doesn't accept responsibility. I think he can realize full potential through more effort. I think he's capable of producing higher quality results. Common theme, he does excellent work in topics that interest him. I'd like to see him reach heights in all of this work. Again, these are all different teachers capable of doing well. And then the last person, just kind of gave up. I know you have the ability to do well, but I felt badly that I could not do much to motivate him. So, not exactly what I remembered, not an early straight A student, but some of you will probably recognize this as the signs of a trait of an entrepreneur, someone who doesn't really like coloring in the lines or following the rules. And it took me a while to figure that out. In fact, it was a little bit of a windy path. I realized that I loved working with early stage companies, but I had a few dead ends in those experiences. I had some bad experiences working for companies and some really poor leaders. And eventually I had sort of this entrepreneurial push, but I was working for other people. And I was also stuck in a job that I really didn't enjoy, but I committed to stay there for a few years because I really wanted to see it through. A real turning point for me was when a good friend, Al Chase, and I went to lunch, and I sort of told him about the situation, and he looked me in the eye and said, my friend, I give you permission to leave. And I wasn't asking for his permission, but I realized I had put myself in this hostage situation and was making myself miserable based on a commitment I had made. And that was a big pivotal moment for me. I realized I had been stagnating for a while. I need to make a change, and I need to just take the plunge. And so, that's when I left the job world forever, started two businesses in 2006, one of which became Acceleration Partners, where I'm founder and CEO today. And over the past 13 years, it's grown into a thriving business with over 170 employees worldwide. Interestingly, if I look at that journey, it was about 4 or 5 years in when we had just done 1 million in revenue and had a few people. I was really like maxed out on what I could do. It was a classic kind of entrepreneur doing too much, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to build a business because I'm an entrepreneur. I hate politics and HR and rules and all this big company stuff. That's why we all get fired from other jobs and have to start our businesses in the first place. But if I had to admit, I was also a little scared. It was uncharted territory for me. I really didn't know if I was a good enough leader for what the company needed. It was starting to sort of grow pretty fast. I was scared to rely more on other people, and I was hesitant to let go. And fortunately, around that time, I had this amazing opportunity through a peer organization called Acceleration Partners to attend a global leadership academy program that they held for about 20 people from around the world. And it was really focused on introspection, determining kind of who we were at the core of our leadership. And there was some real focus on setting positive, intentional habits and routines, kind of like change your habits, change your life. So the gentleman who led it, who has become a mentor of mine, Warren Rustan, specifically taught a morning routine to us based on what he called the 10-10-10. And there's lots of different, Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning, there's lots of different takes on this, but it was sort of just 10 minutes of reflective thought and quiet, 10 minutes of journaling or writing, and 10 minutes of reading, and ideally something positive. And they handed us a lot of quote books and stuff that we could read in the morning. And I loved the routine. And I started doing it when I left and continued with it when I left. But I had trouble finding the right stuff to read. The sort of chicken and soup for the soul genre and those kind of motivational books were just a little too rainbow and unicorny for me. What I wanted something that was inspiring, but more thought-provoking and challenging. And like many entrepreneurs, when you don't find what you want, you try to create it yourself. And so we had about 40 employees, all remote at the time, and I decided I'd combine two of those activities, sort of writing, having something positive to read and writing. And I had a bunch of quotes and stories that I had saved to different folders. And I just one morning sent out this email. I think it was called Friday Inspiration. It wasn't about our business. It had something about getting better, improvement, this notion of building capacity. And I started sending these for 5 or 6 weeks, and I wasn't really hearing back from anyone, but I enjoyed sending them. I was enjoying the process. It made me write every week. It made me think every week. It made me kind of think about how I could get better. And this is simple, something what the first one looked like. And then really after 4 or 5 weeks, I started to get notes back from people saying, I love that. I took your advice there. I went and signed up for a 5K. Also, like, I forwarded this to my husband's company, or I sent this to my family, and my sister really liked it. So it was clear that it was leading to the company. Leaving the company, fortuitously, I was at another one of those EO events a few months later, and I was telling some other CEOs about this kind of Friday inspiration story, and I said, look, it's been a great way to connect to my team. I really enjoy it. You should all try it. And they said, all right, well, add to the list and we'll see the example. And one of the people in that group started one, and I think does it till this day. And the other 3 or 4, like a lot of good entrepreneurs, said, this is great. We'll just send this to our team. And I realized, each week it was getting shared in teams outside the company. I decided to open it up. So one weekend, and people were asking me also, like, where are the old ones? And they were just in my sent box. So one weekend I signed up for a newsletter list. I opened it up. I bought a $50 WordPress site, and I put the old ones on a site so people could find them, and they were asking them for me. And I just I opened it to the world, and part of that, I threw a couple hundred friends and families and colleagues on the list. I expected them all to get this and say, what the hell is this? Take me off, unsubscribe. But I got the same really positive feedback. They said, I love this. I'm sharing this with X, Y, and Z. And look, I'd wake up 5 years later today, and there's several 100,000 people in 60 countries who have signed up, read this email, share it with their teams on a weekly basis, and it's become part of their Friday morning coffee and routine. And early on, as the list grew, it sort of created for me the need to make sure I added value and put value into the world. And one of the things is, I think when you do that and you focus on giving values to others, you get value back. And throughout this, the press started to notice. So when I opened it up, someone wrote an article in Inc. that said this CEO writes an inspirational email. It's the only thing I read. A couple thousand people signed up for a week, and it really just kept going beyond and anything I could have imagined. And this one little exercise in reaching out to others, focusing my energy on how to lift them up and be better, really changed my life and how I lead and the trajectory of my business in ways that I couldn't have imagined. I said this before, but as one of the things that really motivated me each week to keep writing was the responses that I just got from people all around the world. Someone in South Africa talking about how they really related to a story I had shared, and they had been in prison. Someone in the UK who was sharing these stories each week, with his company, people I had met. There's a story about love and hate, one of the more famous ones, and someone talking about sharing that with her family at Shabbat dinner. And then this is still one of my favorites to these days, someone in a remote tribe in Australia talking about how isolated they were and how important these messages had become to them, and sort of connecting them to thinking and otherwise. And I've really seen the amount of feedback and messages like this double during COVID-19. I think people are lonely, they're isolated. I know we can't see people in person, but it's become really clear to me that you can still make incredible connections with people inside and outside your organization, particularly you haven't met, if you're willing to focus on elevating them and help lifting them up. I think we spend a just tremendous amount of time across social media using energy to knock each other down, and we all feel that. So as this Friday Forward was growing and I still had my business, I got a lot of questions like, why are you doing this? Like, what, it's not related to our business. Shouldn't you connect it back to our business? I also was sort of wondering, like, why did this simple note have such an impact internally and externally? Why did it become so important to me? Again, why was I spending so much time on this thing that didn't make any money, and it wasn't related to my business? And then, one day the answer sort of found me. So I was watching a presentation that someone was giving, and I saw this slide pop up at the end. And honestly, I got a lump in my throat, and I got pretty choked up. If you think back to, and it really became the point where it all connected for me. And I think a lot of us had this moment or moments in our life, and Steve Jobs has talked about this, kind of where the dots connect. But if you think back to those report cards that I showed you pretty early, I was the entrepreneurial kid who was just bored in school. But more importantly, a lot of my strengths were misunderstood as weaknesses. The things that I use today to be successful were actually discouraged by teachers and otherwise, and people who surrounded me. So the result of that was I really was an underachiever for a lot of my life. More than anything, like, I needed someone to help me understand the principles of capacity building, how I could get better and how I could live to my own best potential. So this whole experience has just been a wild ride for me. As I mentioned, this one small email that I started just each week to my company, and then to strangers that I don't know, has had a material impact on me personally. It's led to 2 books. It's led to a change in our business and how we run our business, and just connected to this incredible Friday Forward community around the world. So 3 takeaways that I just like to leave with you from this is that, take the time and energy needed to understand what you want most. I think when you understand your purpose, your core values, you then set yourself up to make your best contribution to the world. And it took me a long time to get there, and I'm still catching up for it. And at the same time, recognize that you always have, room and improvement to grow. We're all work in progress. I think my belief that I could contribute on a higher level, that there was something more that I could do, and pushing forward to that was a big part of the journey. And finally, once you know that direction and you're moving there, you need to just align your life and your relationships around developing your passion, and sharing it with others. There's some things you'll have to let go of, and some things you'll want to gravitate to once you really know what you want to do. So it's been an incredible ride. Look forward to answering questions from you all. If you're interested in more information, Elevate is my book on the framework of capacity building, which is what I learned about this whole Friday Forward experience around how anyone can elevate their life around the 4 dimensions of spiritual, intellectual, physical, and emotional capacity. And then Friday Forward is the best stories from this series of over 250 stories now that tie to those capacities. So some people like the framework, and some people want to read the story to inspire them to go further in those directions. So thank you very much for having me, and I look forward to jumping in and answering some of your questions.